I'm gonna need an extra shot of vitamin C to make up for all the toxicity that's gonna come out of the comment section of this one. What is up, Tentacrew? My name is Billy the Skwid, and what kind of a Souls-like streamer would I be if I didn't take the time to let you guys know my undisputed opinion of which one of FromSoftware's most recent titles was the best, and which ones suck the big old dong? And before you go sounding off in the comments telling me about how wrong I am, let me just tell you, my word is God in these parts. I am a god in this land as a conscious being, and no matter how mean you are to me in the comments section, it will not dissuade me of my opinion. But I still want to know. So let me know what you guys think, if you agree or disagree. Let's get this show on the road, and we're just going to go in the order that this tier list has them set up. So starting with Bloodborne. That is, in my opinion, one of the best PvE Souls-likes that has ever been made. Whether it's a FromSoftware title or otherwise, I think this game single-handedly goes and shows what a PvE experience should be in one of these titles. The combat is tight and fluid. The weapon systems are very, very in-depth and fun. There's plenty of weapons to choose from. And before you guys get, oh, but the Dark Souls games have way more weapons. Yes, they do. But how many of them have unique movesets? Maybe Dark Souls 3 kind of like pushes that envelope a little bit with the weapon arts and stuff, but considering each weapon is technically 2 weapons, and the amount of moveset that each of those weapons has, and you can interchange in between mid-combo, it just goes way beyond anything that FromSoftware has put out. The only thing I can think of would be Neo as far as how well the weapons work in that, because the stance system effectively works like weapon arts in this game does. So yeah, it's just way too well polished. Now, there's a few killer downsides to Bloodborne. PvP sucks. The PvP was never good, and this was my biggest disappointment. Coming from Dark Souls 2, where I was a very PvP-centered gamer on that, after I finished the main game, I had so many builds because the build variety in Dark Souls 2 is insane. We'll get to that. But considering coming from that and wanting a fast-paced, like, hunter v hunter experience, I was sorely disappointed. Not only is it almost impossible to get invasions on people unless you're in one of the Nightmare realms, but the PvP systems in general are just flawed. Invaders come in nerfed significantly. Hosts, if they want to be kind, can pull a blood bullet and drop their health down, but most don't, especially if you're doing invasions. It already puts you at a disadvantage. And to top it all off, if you want to be invaded or do any invading outside of one of the Nightmare realms, the other person has to have somebody summoned into their world to get a Bell Maiden to appear to begin with. So you're already at a disadvantage numbers-wise as well. To top this all off, while bullet parrying is really cool, it is way too easy, and I understand that they made it easy because healing is super easy and it's supposed to be the counter for healing, but it just rarely works in a way that you can actually capitalize on healing. So most duels end up sitting for 5-10 minutes of people healing back and forth before they're actually able to down one another, unless they take like a bursty build or one of the more meme builds like the arcane tentacles, I'm gonna hug myself and explode all over your face build. Fun build, by the way. But PvP, hella flawed. Everything else about this game, an absolute masterpiece. And it doesn't have to be a long game to be a masterpiece. I think main game-wise, if you didn't do any of the side content, this game could easily like be only like 2 hours if you are like competent and running through it like one boss, next boss, next boss, just having an agenda and sorting that out. But with all of the side content, it just has so many branching paths that you can go if you choose to, but it doesn't force you into any of them. Same thing with the endings. It is rare that a FromSoftware title actually have endings that genuinely change what your final boss is going to be. And I think that's really cool. You can either have the Wet Nurse be your final boss, you could fight Gehrman, or if you went and took the time to get all the umbilical cords, Moon Presence could easily be your final boss. And then, before any of this gets put on a tier list, there's the DLC. Probably the best DLC FromSoftware has ever put onto disc. It is just way too good. everything about the DLC, from the starting area of the Twisted Nightmare, Hunter's Nightmare Realm, to the Clock Tower, to the Fishing Hamlet. It is just so aesthetically good and just really cinches everything Bloodborne together into one wonderful experience. Living Failures being the exception, but hey, it's in the name. What did we expect, really? So, with that being said, I might be biased on this one, but Bloodborne, for how well it does a PvE experience, it easily goes into S tier for ya boy. Moving it on forward, we have Demon Souls. So this tier list only has the PS3 version of Demon Souls. I've never played the PS3 version of Demon Souls, so we are not going to go off of the PS3 version of Demon Souls, because I hear it's big doof butts anyway. Tell me if I'm wrong? Probably not. But the PS5 version, because I am one of the top tier gamers out here that was able to outsmart the scalpers and get a PS5, it's real good. It's real good. So playing through it the first time, I was significantly impressed with how a game from 2009 has actually been brought up to the present day and felt like it was meant to be here. Like, if you had told me Demon Souls was a brand new title coming out, 2020, never been made before, I would believe you. Like, the mechanics and what Bluepoint have done with an aged game are actually astonishing. How they can just change a few things and take away a lot of the jank that other remakes and remasters did not get right. We'll get to that here in a bit as well. But there's a lot of things this game does well. I've not dabbled into the PvP aspect of it at all, so I cannot tell you, but considering only a handful of elite gamers have PS5s, unless you're a scalper or a scalp sympathizer, fuck you, by the way. The PvP realm, from what I understand, is very, very inactive unless you have friends to PvP with in co-op or dueling or anything like that. I don't have any interest in that because it costs PS Plus and I'm cheap, so. PvP aside, the PvE is very well done. So it is completely different from a lot of the other Souls titles in that it's level-based. You have the Archstones, they take you to very unique and different levels, which the world variety is amazing in my opinion. The boss design goes from aged but good to gimmicky but bad. And then there's everything in between. I think only like 3 of the bosses I actually did not enjoy, and it wasn't because they were bad per se, except for Leechmonger. That thing's shit. But they just didn't age well. The AI wasn't challenging, especially with some of the quality of life changes Bluepoint has implemented. It's not the hardest Souls game, but I don't think hard necessarily equals good or bad. But what this game does do well is its world variation and its replayability. This is probably one of the most replayable Souls-likes that has been made from this company. The world tendency system alone kind of goes and makes it so that 3 playthroughs is like necessary to experience everything this game has and to get everything this game has. Yes, it doesn't change bosses, it doesn't change anything like of the concrete story, but the way it alters the worlds, the way it alters how you play, the way it makes the game harder or easier, and the gear that you can get from that makes it well worth it in my opinion. So, Demon Souls, I feel, ranking with the rest of these, I feel like it is a solid A-tier game. Like, it is just really, really solid. I think the only thing that could make it better, in my opinion, is if it wasn't made in 2009, and some of that aged gameplay didn't show through as much, but they did the best that they could do. I don't think, unless they rebuilt this game from the ground up like it was a Resident Evil remake, they could have done much better, honestly. Well done. Coming up next, we got the Dark Souls 2 boys. So we got both Dark Souls 2 OG and Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. I'm going to kind of lump these together, but they might not get the same rating when talking about general gameplay specifics. So a lot of people sleep on this one. This is where a lot of people think the series fell off and then Dark Souls 3 was a return to form. Fuck that. This, in my opinion, was the pinnacle for the RPG nature of FromSoftware titles. I really hope Elden Ring goes more into a direction of Dark Souls 2 than it does into a Dark Souls 3 direction, because Dark Souls 2 had, in my personal opinion, the best progression system for a character and for weapons out of any of the games. The only flaw I have with how Dark Souls 2 progresses you is the fact that you need to level up your armor and stuff. I feel like that is a bloated thing that it kind of forces you into if you want to be viable in PvP or PvE, and I think it's unnecessary. I did enjoy them simplifying that, but hey, people like material farming, have at it. I'm not going to tell you no. It's just not something I enjoy for armor because it doesn't actually improve my gameplay. Yes, I can take a few more hits, but if you're good enough, you're not getting hit anyway. So maybe even leveling up armor isn't necessary if you just want to flex your dick on some hoes. But for the rest of us, mat farming is not the best, but the amount of variety that you can get out of builds in this game goes way above any of the other titles. With Dark Souls 3, they streamlined things down a lot. With this one, they ballooned it. There are so many things, and if you're wanting to go for like a PvP level build, that is where the glory shines. There is so much build variety in the PvP scene in this game, and I genuinely think it was the best PvP out of any FromSoftware title. I spent so many hours. I probably spent 2K hours playing the original Dark Souls 2 PvP alone. It is just that good. Between power stancing, weapon variation, build variation, there's so many spells that you can do to augment your builds. Yes, people want to complain about Havel monsters and stuff like that, but the game was just good. It just felt good to fight. Yes, it was a slower, but it was more methodical. You had to think more actively about what you were doing because there was more recovery frames on any attack that you did. You couldn't just go in and R1 spam because you would get punished or backstabbed. It was just a very, very well-made PvP system. And the fact that you could invade anywhere at any time, it had the least stipulations to PvP, with the exception of Soul Memory. Probably the worst thing that has ever been added to a Souls game. Souls Memory is hot Duke. It is the Valley of Defilement in a mechanic. It is just bad. So, PvP alone, this game easily ranks S tier, but I am going to take that a step further and also say that it's probably got one of the best PvEs in the Souls games as well. Yes, it is long. Yes, a lot of the boss variety feels generic. You got big armored dude with big weapon fighting you, and then you have another big armored dude with big weapon fighting you. But those sprinkled throughout, they could have probably been removed. You're right. But I wouldn't have wanted to remove them and then remove the area that came along with them. I think the area variety in this game goes beyond what Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 3 did. And I understand that Dark Souls 1 is very well revered for how it put its map together, and I am not going to knock that one bit. Being able to loop each area in on itself and having like a world that feels interconnected and not like you're going on separate linear paths, fucking well done. I 100% agree on that. But with this one, I feel like the world variety, it's up there with Demon Souls as far as the variety of the locales that you go to. You don't really get bored going through down into the pit, or going up to the Fire Keep, or going to the Forest of the Fallen Giants, or the Lost Bastille. They all have unique feels to them, and the enemies that go along with those areas also feel unique. I could gush about Dark Souls 2 all day, just because it's so slept on in my opinion, and I think PvE-wise even, it's solid A+ to S. But this is the censure for my opinion on this game. Why the fuck would they get rid of power stance? It was by far the best mechanic that had ever been added into a Souls game. It revolutionized what you could do with weapons. It effectively made each weapon class have a secondary moveset, or you can combine two different weapon classes and you could make a big fucking sword have a katana's power stance moveset. It was ridiculous the amount of variety that you could do with that. And you could swap in and out of power stance on the fly, so if you wanted to do regular R1s, you could then swap to power stance and then do big swings. Yes, you could do it. The game was just too good. As an RPG, it is the top tier of top tier in my opinion. You can't get much better RPG-wise than Dark Souls 2. So, S tier, easy. With Scholar of the First Sin, they added some things. They added some things that were good, like the ability to stop soul memory so that the PvP system could be more consistent. You didn't have to constantly remake builds because your soul memory was going too high, or you were getting to top soul memory where you were fighting nothing but magic barriered Havel monsters with the buff that Velstock gives you. It just got repetitive after a while and monotonous, and if you were sticking to a level 130 or 140, whatever the PvP build level was, 150 maybe? I don't remember. But if you were sticking to that, you were eventually going to go up against 250s, 300s, and it just got boring, so you had to replay the game. This game fixed that, but it also added a lot of issues like random stone hollows that were blocking paths that you could originally get to before. That hid all of the DLC keys in areas that were super duper difficult to get to. The key that's down in the pit with the fire lizards is ridiculous in my opinion, shouldn't even be there. But, and then the red phantoms and all the red enemies that they added didn't really do much for my experience. The best thing that Scholar of the First Sin did do, though, was bring all the DLCs together into one thing. They upped the frame rate, which made the game run a lot better. I feel like a lot of the clunk that people wanted to complain about Dark Souls 2 is because of the 30 FPS. Bringing it up to 60 was a good play. And I personally like the Aldia questline. I think that Aldia made for a better finale boss than what Nassandra did. They're both not difficult, but he's at least more thematically fun, in my opinion, to fight. So, Scholar of the First Sin, not an S tier, but I feel like it is at least A tier. It's not as good as original Dark Souls 2, even with the quality of life improvements. They botched a few things, so. Coming up to Dark Souls 3. Now, this is, I like this game. I'm not going to say that I don't like this game, but what I will say about this game is they streamlined it to a point of monotony. I feel like with how they brought everything together, there is really very little build variation. They altered the poise system so it only affects your hyper armor frames, so you couldn't actually just outright tank things. You had to be in the middle of an attack animation, and if you weren't using a greatsword or heavier, you really weren't getting much use out of the poise system. I feel like that was a big flaw. I missed the days where you could rock a heavy set with, say, 2 katanas or 2 daggers and be able to tank a hit while you're getting in close for that short range and then do your combos. They removed power stance in favor of weapons that were naturally dual-wielded, which the dual-wield weapons are cool, but still, it's just one weapon that you have the ability to pull out 2 of them, like twin daggers, twin cell swords, that kind of thing. It's neat, but it's flawed. I feel like the power stance system gave a lot more variation, and if they wanted to have the twin blade cell sword build put into the game, you could have just given the cell sword blade, force the player to get 2 of them, stat allocated for that, and then they could do like the moveset that they have now. And they could have even put like power stance weapon arts into the game. That would have taken the variety way up there too, but they didn't. On top of this, quality build's pretty well run king. Your armor doesn't really mean much, so there's not a lot of point in putting any points into that other than fashion, which is fine. But you're going to be seeing people running the same health, the same stamina, and then whatever their damage stats are. So you're going to have your pyro builds, you're going to have your quality builds. You're going to have some niche, like, mage builds with maybe dexterity, but that's really it. On top of that, since they changed the poise system, the R1 spam, straight swords, scimitars, that kind of stuff are OP. You're guaranteed 2 hits no matter what weapon class you're using or what armor you're using. So if you hit somebody with an ultra greatsword, for instance, you're guaranteed that second hit, and that's either going to one-shot or put them damn near close to a one-shot. So I feel like PvP-wise, this game was super flawed. PvE-wise, while the build variety isn't exactly there, the weapons and weapon arts are fun, and there is enough variety that I feel like getting multiple builds together is worth it. The game is very linear in most aspects. There's a few pathways that go one way or the other, but nothing really loops onto each other, and there's really no reason for it to, because you can teleport instantly. Dark Souls 2 started that system, but I feel like with the way Dark Souls 2's worlds are set up. The bonfires are far enough in between that it still has that sense of dread. There's so many bonfires in this game. There's really no hurt in doing whatever you want, teleporting wherever you want. There's no risk in moving forward like there is in the prior games. So, as far as the combat goes, it's smooth. It feels really good. It's really responsive. I think the PvE is a lot of fun and is almost Bloodborne tier as far as how fun it is. The boss variety is very, very good, aside from a few of the gimmick bosses, which Demon Souls had great gimmick bosses. This one did not. And my view of a great gimmick boss is if the boss continues to be fun to fight even after you found out the gimmick. Like I said, Demon Souls did this very well. I feel like Dark Souls 3 did not. I'm talking like Volnir, Eorm, and that kind of thing. I just don't enjoy those bosses as much. Fighting them, I think they're really cool to look at, though. So, with that all being said, I feel like the streamlining nature might have brought in more players, which is probably what FromSoftware is wanting to do, but I feel like for the dedicated audience, it was a step down from Dark Souls 2, at least from, in my opinion. This is where y'all are gonna go fucking rabid, foaming at the mouth, calling me all kinds of mean names like Smooth Brain or Idiot or other derogatory dumb names. Go ahead. I am fully expecting it, but I feel like Dark Souls 3 is a in-between B. It's as good as the game is. I don't see a lot of reason to replay it unless I'm playing with other people. I don't enjoy the PvP system. The PvE is fun, but only if I'm doing challenge runs at this point. Yeah, we're gonna go with a B tier on this one. Like I said, the game was good. There's nothing wrong with the game, but I just, compared to the variation that these games all give, and it's not as good PvE-wise as Bloodborne is, it's a B tier. We're just gonna leave it at that. Let me know what you all think of that, because I'm sure it tickled ya jimmies. Moving on to the Dark Souls games, we have the OG Dark Souls and then Dark Souls Remastered. So I'm going to go into Dark Souls 1 by itself before we talk about the remaster. Now, I'm also assuming that this is the base version of the game, not the PC version, heavily modded or anything like that. It's flawed. The game is not fun for me to go back and play anymore at all. Like, I do not enjoy playing Dark Souls 1 whatsoever. The game did not age well compared to everything else that I've put up on this list so far. It just does not feel good. It doesn't. It's not a fun game. I don't know why people still feel like it is the top tier of the Souls formula. Yes, it's got the best map design. I will 100% agree with that. Yes, I enjoyed the fact that you don't get teleporting right off the bat. I feel like they could have kept that in all of the games, and it would have made each of them go up a tier on its own, because the risk of pushing into new territory is there, knowing that you are going to have to walk your happy ass back to Firelink if you want to do anything there. I like that. I think that's really good. The world building is top tier on this. Everything else is doo-doo caca poo-poo. I'm sorry. It is. The enemies are not fun to fight. They have poor AI. The character control is very sluggish. The attack animations are clunky. You don't feel good using most of the weapons. The halberd is almost unusable, even if it is one of the technical strongest weapons in the game. The moveset is so garbage that if you try to do a second R1, you are guaranteed to get hit by 90% of the enemies in this game. On top of that, PvP is garbage as well. There's only a few high PvP areas, and it's all just the same one-shot builds or backstab builds. It's just not... There's nothing that this game excels at more than any of the other ones that I've already ranked, besides its map design and world design. I feel like that's all top tier. And there is a nostalgia factor that I think carries a lot with this game, but it doesn't do it for me, dog. This game is a C tier at best. Going back and playing it after playing any of these, it is not aged to a point where I could recommend it to anybody. Nobody would have fun with this. It would be like going back and playing the original Kingdom Hearts 1 after playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. It just feels bad. And now we have this guy. This guy got everybody's hopes and dreams up and decided it was going to dominatrix stomp on them like Lady Dimitrescu in the new Resident Evil trailers. It is just not what anybody wanted. So, the good. You have a stable 60 frames per second on consoles. Great. For consoles, wonderful. And it also brought it to different consoles. I think there's a Switch version and all this stuff. I don't know how well it plays, but it has accessibility there at the very least. That's it. That's all this game did better. If you were playing on PC, you already had a better 60 frames per second patch. You already had better texture patches than what they put into this game. This was the most low-effort remaster I've ever seen made, period. And honestly, this was the only time that I ever felt like FromSoftware was dropping the ball, and it made me nervous for what was coming in the future. It just was bad. It was very, very low effort. They did minimal quality of life improvements. They didn't add omnidirectional rolling. They didn't update any of the attack animations to make the clunk factor not be there. They didn't update any of the enemy animations to make them feel less stupid or unfair. They barely texture updated anything. The game barely looks better than the original did. And in some instances, it looks worse than what the original did. Some of the lighting effects on like the souls and the items and some of the areas just looks bad. So this is as bad as FromSoftware has ever done, in my opinion. And I think this is... I'm going to hope that this is a fluke. I'm going to hope that this isn't a level of quality that we're going to come to expect in the future of the Souls-likes. It is a remaster. I don't remember if they did this remaster themselves or if they outsourced it. Give me 1 second and I'll actually look that up. Okay, so they didn't develop it, but they did oversee the project, so I guess I can't really put most of this on to FromSoftware, but I can for them signing off on releasing this abomination of a remaster. If they would have went the route that Demon's Souls went and did a from the ground up rebuild of the system, just give... Guys, gaming industry, look at me. Look at me. Give all your remasters to Bluepoint or the people doing the Resident Evil remakes, okay? If you want a game that is completely different but still holds the same story, give it to the Resident Evil guys. They are amazing. If you want a game that holds true to your original formula while performing and looking way better than the original did and bring it up to the modern day, give it to Bluepoint. They're the best in the industry. Hands down. Do it. Do it. Do it. Okay. And then we have the last modern FromSoftware title, Sekiro. While I do not consider this per se a Souls-like, it does share some Souls-like influences. And it is very different from a lot of the games that From has made, and I think in a very good way. So it is extremely, extremely linear with your build variety because your character uses one weapon. They use that same weapon throughout the entire game. The variation comes from your prosthetic enhancements, which while it does influence your combat quite a bit, it's still not to the same way of the hunter tools or weapons in the other Souls-like. That's fine. There's still enough variation there that you can have fun with it without having to sink stats into build variety and stuff like that. What it does do extremely well is what its flow of combat is. Sekiro is not a hack and slash. It is not a Souls-like. It is a rhythm game. It is more akin to Guitar Hero or DDR than it is any of the titles that are up on this list right now. It is by far the best rhythm game I've played since Guitar Hero 3. It is a lot of fun once you get the cadence of the fights and how they go. It is literally a dance between you and your enemies. And I feel like the boss design and how the bosses perform in this game are the best that FromSoftware has ever done. I feel like the boss fights are top tier in every single facet. I didn't not enjoy any of these fights. So on boss quality alone, this game ranks up there. Also has variations on ending. You can get multiple different endings, 2 of which are actually completely different, like boss fights and stuff like that, which I think is really neat. If you wanted to go the shorter route, there is a bad ending that gives you that. There's also different bosses throughout the other 2 endings based on what you have to get. A lot of side content, a lot of content in general with this game, but I do feel like the monotony of the combat system kind of makes it so that you don't want to replay it after you've beaten it once or twice. Once you've done that, you kind of have seen everything, and since it doesn't have build variety, and there's no really any stat allocation, so there's no reason for you to make new characters. You can just New Game Plus, get all of your prosthetic enhancements maxed out, and you have free reign of whatever you want to do. So for a one and done, this is the best they could have done, and I genuinely think this is one of the... It is the spiritual successor that Tenchu needed. I think stealth mechanics in this game were extremely well done. The verticality is extremely well done. They just did a very good job with it. The only thing holding it back is the fact that it does not have any of those RPG systems, and I don't think it was meant to. My preference leans more towards RPG mechanics, so it's going to rate a little lower on my enjoyability factor because of that, but even then, I still think it's at least an A tier in my book. It's, from what it does it extremely well. It's just my personal taste that's holding this one back. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and follow the channel, hit the bell, do all that fun shit that the big boys tell you to do. I'm gonna go get some more orange juice so that I can stave off whatever cold bullshit you guys are gonna throw at me. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think of the tier list down in the comments, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another video. Much love, Tentacrew. Bye-bye.